Archaeologists have found the skeleton of the Hound of the Baskervilles. Where can the marks of the monster's claws be seen? And why did the killer dog glow in the dark? Around 2,000 years ago, Roman legionaries invaded the British Isles. On their campaigns of conquest, they brought four-legged assistants with them, enormous, vicious dogs. The Romans brought large-sized dogs on this conquest, which were specially trained to pursue and attack people. These were quite large dogs of a very intimidating appearance, with massive jaws and large builds. This allowed them not only to successfully conquer the British Isles, but also to keep the local population in fear for many centuries. In addition to participating in the conquest, the dogs guarded wagon trains and protected soldiers. Enormous size, a massive head, a terrifying maw. These animals struck such terror into the local inhabitants that the memory of them remained for many centuries. The descendants of the Roman dogs interbred with local breeds and gave rise to a large group of fighting dogs. Among them were the English Mastiffs, large and dangerous. The Roman Empire fell, but the Mastiffs remained. They were very popular among the British nobility. English kings and representatives of the nobility were very fond of Mastiffs. They used them for hunting and for baiting wild animals. Often English kings loved to watch as these aggressive dogs cornered an animal and tore it to pieces. Sometimes the dogs were also used for hunting runaway peasants. For centuries, rumors circulated throughout the British Isles about encounters with a huge, terrifying black dog. It was said that flames erupted from its mouth and its eyes shot sparks. It would appear suddenly from the darkness and then vanish as if dissolving into thin air. In different regions, the demonic monster was called by different names. In the counties of Norfolk, Suffolk, and Essex, the Black Shuck. This name comes from an Old English word for demon. On August 4, 1577, in the small town of Bungay, people saw this monster with their own eyes for the first time. The title page of a report by the Reverend Abram Fleming, preserved in memory of that terrible incident, remains. During a thunderstorm, as lightning flashed, a service was underway. A black dog, spewing flames and with glowing eyes, burst into the church. It killed 2 men and disappeared. Reverend Fleming reported that the hound mauled a man and a boy. At the same moment, the church spire collapsed into the building and the monstrous beast vanished as if by magic, leaving scorch marks on the door. Both the church and these very marks have survived to this day. The people still call them the devil's marks. Of course, when the chronicler described this event, it was likely greatly embellished. Surely some things were added, even things that didn't actually happen. Most likely, on that August day, something unusual did indeed happen in the church, and this event left an indelible mark on the public memory. Years later, scientists finally found a simple and logical explanation for what happened. Cases of ball lightning flying into rooms are well known. It can enter through an open window or an open door. There is quite a bit of evidence for this. In principle, they can appear in places where thunderstorms occur, and thunderstorms, as is known, are not a rare phenomenon in the summer on the foggy Albion. They are capable of exploding and causing harm to both the premises and the people inside. It is known that they can cause burns and even significant destruction. Most likely, during such a storm, the people in the church were killed by ball lightning, and a dog, perhaps a large black one, was simply nearby. In those times, in England, animals were allowed to enter churches with their owners. Imagination filled in the rest for the terrified eyewitnesses. One British researcher and photographer, Nick Stone, investigated these myths and legends and counted more than 50 such cases. And of course, one cannot say that every such case is a coincidence of a dog's appearance and ball lightning. After all, ball lightning is a rather rare phenomenon. But where did the stories of flames erupting from its mouth or sparks flying from its eyes come from? There are other explanations for this. If we return to the times of the Roman Empire, It was the legionaries who tied buckets of burning oil to their war dogs and unleashed them on their enemies. Another explanation could be the fact that Roman legionaries were the first to use fluorescent solutions for decoration and intimidation. Therefore, of course, this was unknown to the tribes they were conquering, and people could not explain it. All of this merged into legends about a huge black dog with glowing eyes and flames. These terrifying legends and stories of a demonic hound bursting into a church became a source of inspiration for the writer Arthur Conan Doyle. He heard them from his friend, the journalist Fletcher Robinson. Here in Norfolk, we are going to write a little book together called The Hound of the Baskervilles, one that will make the reader's hair stand on end, Arthur Conan Doyle wrote to his mother. But most interestingly, when he began to study the material, the author of the Sherlock Holmes stories found another incredible tale connected with demonic hounds. The tragedy happened to the prototype of Hugo Baskerville, a squire named Richard Cable, who lived at Brook Hall Manor in Devon in the mid-17th century. This is not a fictional character, but a very real person. Cable's grave, rather his impressively sized crypt, has survived to this day. In the area, the man was known as Dirty Dick. He adored hunting and had the reputation of a monstrously evil man. The true cause of his death is unknown, but everyone said that he was dragged to the underworld by hellhounds. Cable's mausoleum is even mentioned in tourist guidebooks to attract fans of Sherlock Holmes. When the writer told the story of Hugo Baskerville, the very one who became the root cause of the family curse, he literally copied it from the biography of Richard Cable. The cruel landowner had a vile character, frequently beat his wife, and eventually killed her on the moor. After which, a pack of black hounds appeared and mauled the villain, and a terrible punishment fell upon the bearers of his name. However, the roots of this legend go back to an even ancient myth, the tale of the Wild Hunt. The fact is that in pre-Christian, Germanic-Scandinavian beliefs, there was a mythological image called the Wild Hunt. What did it signify? A demonic cavalcade of hellhounds from the underworld, led by some devilish character, or simply a character from the otherworld. This could be a pagan god, for example, the Germanic-Scandinavian Odin, or it could be some famous legendary hero of the medieval epic, like Theodoric the Great. Or, if we take England, King Arthur. Interestingly, according to family legend, the Baskerville line originates from King Arthur himself, the real Baskervilles. Bearers of this surname did indeed live in Devonshire for many centuries. The writer was introduced to one of them by the same journalist, Fletcher Robinson. Sir Henry Baskerville himself took his friends on a tour of the moors. And this is what the family crest of the noble family looks like. The Baskerville crest depicts a hound's head with a broken, bloodied spear, which signifies the end of a duel and the victory of the crest's owner over an opponent, that very beast against which the spear was broken. And in the description of this crest in English, it is customary to use the word hound. But historians say that this definition can apply to both domesticated hounds, which were depicted with collars, and wild dogs and wolves without collars. The hound on the Baskerville crest has no collar. The population of British wolves began to be exterminated long before the Norman invasion. Wolves were killed because they posed a great threat to both people and livestock. They devoured corpses, desecrated graves, and could often become carriers of the plague as they ate corpses in plague-ridden villages. The first of the kings to begin a systematic hunt for wolves was King Athelstan in the 10th century. He introduced a tax paid in wolf skins, and criminals could atone their guilt by hunting wolves and presenting their tongues as proof. King Edward in the 13th century intended to destroy the wolf population almost completely. However, his work was only completed in the 15th century by King Henry VII, who completely exterminated these animals, and from then on, they could only be found in legends. The Baskervilles, whose family tree can be traced back at least to the 15th century, undoubtedly also participated in that hunt for wolves, and probably quite successfully, since such an image became the main theme of their family crest.